Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the David Icke Documented Videocast. The crazy times are here. I'm in my house under lockdown, Dad's in his house under lockdown. So hopefully the internet connection will be good enough between the two of us. We're just basically going to have a bit of a chat about what's been going on with the coronavirus. And also it's an excuse for me to see Dad, because I don't know the next time I'm going to be able to see you. How you going, Dad?
I'm doing good, mate. I mean, I spent most of my life in this room working anyway, so it's been an enormous change for me, but of course it has for vast numbers of other people. What I want to talk about today is how this scam has been played. You know, we've been observing events, and it's very clear to anyone, especially someone who's spent the last 30 years investigating this, that this virus is an excuse, a problem reaction solution, to create the very Orwellian global society that I've been warning was coming if we didn't wake up. A lot of people may have not heard me say that because they were drowned by the laughter. But I don't think they will be laughing so much now. And I want to start with a brilliant explanation of how this coronavirus scam, because that's what it is when you look at the evidence, has been created and is being played out. First of all, if you go to davidicke.com, you will see an article. Basically, what you're looking for in the search engine is 12 health experts talk about coronavirus. And these are people who are experts in their field, who have broken ranks from the narrative, basically said, this is insane, and this
huge increase.
Nonsense.
No
What
hand.
is being imposed upon the world for a virus that is nothing like as deadly as they're claiming. And we'll get into why that is as we go along.
No
But
hand.
here's just one quote, guys, from one of those 12, Professor Dr. Sucharit Bhakdi, highly acclaimed infectious medicine specialist in Germany. And he says of these lockdowns, which the last time I saw, now involve 3 billion people in the world. And you know, just very quickly, when I've been saying all these years that a few people control human society, people have said, oh no, that's mad, you're crazy, that would never happen, that could never happen. We have just watched the human race give away its world and its society, its freedom, in a matter of days. Not only can it be possible for a few to control the world, the vast majority don't question anything, it's a doddle. So this is what Professor Dr. Bhakdi said about these lockdowns. They are grotesque, absurd, and very dangerous. All these measures are leading to self-destruction and collective suicide, wait for it, because of nothing but a spook. So the next question is, how does the spook work? And as you know, this very morning, guys, we were sent an email by Sir Julian Rose. Julian Rose is a researcher and writer and very famous in Britain for the promotion of organic farming. And I just want to read you this because it relates to something that he was sent from a medical profession in America, a medical professional, who is explaining how the scam.
There's my blood pressure, 129 over
It
88.
is a brilliant
That's a direct result of my
It's
arm
not
being pulsed
short.
relentlessly.
It is devastating. So stick with me. Julian says, the below was sent to me by a widely respected professional scientist in USA. While we may know it's a scam, this insider evidence on the methodology of the madness is second to none, and it is. The writer prefers to stay anonymous because presenting any narrative different from the official one can cause you a lot of stress in the toxic environment caused by the scam that surrounds COVID-19 these days. So this is what this professional scientist sent to. I will work in the healthcare field. Here's the problem. We are testing people for any strain of coronavirus, not specifically for COVID-19. There are no reliable tests for a specific COVID-19 virus. There are no reliable agencies or media outlets for reporting numbers of actual COVID-19 virus cases. This needs to be addressed first and foremost. Every action and reaction to COVID-19 is based on totally flawed data, and we simply cannot make accurate assessments. So where are they coming from? I'll come to that as we go along in this video. This is why you're hearing that most people with COVID-19 are showing nothing more than cold, flu-like symptoms. That's because most coronavirus strains are nothing more than cold, flu-like symptoms. The few actual novel coronavirus cases do have some worse respiratory responses, but still have a very promising recovery rate, especially for those without prior issues, something we've clearly seen all over the world. The gold standard in testing for COVID-19 is laboratory isolated, purified coronavirus particles free from any contaminants and particles that look like viruses but are not, that have been proven to be the cause of the syndrome known as COVID-19 and obtained by using proper viral isolation methods and controls. Not the PCR test used or serology antibody
The
test.
cops are coming. The cops are coming.
Viruses
131 over
This
88.
is the test, the PCR.
As the power is turned up on me
Tested.
for tweeting.
On our website, John Rappaport, an American journalist who's specialized in health issues and
That's the newsletter from my, this is the newsletter
has written
from my building
the fact this PCR test
management.
is useless and forward. And here we have a scientist in America confirming that. So, PCR basically takes a sample of your cells and amplifies any DNA to look for viral sequences, i.e., bits of non-human DNA that seem to match parts of a known viral genome. The problem is the test is known not to work. It uses amplification, which means taking a very, very tiny amount of DNA and growing it exponentially until it can be analyzed. Obviously, any minute
That was a hit on the arm.
sample will also be amplified.
The left arm is being pulsed, and so is my chest.
Gross errors of discovery. Additionally, it's not only looking for partial viral sequences, not whole genomes, or it is looking for partial viral sequences, not whole genomes. So identifying a single pathogen is next to impossible, even if you ignore the other issues. These are the tests that are being promoted to sell the figures. The Mickey Mouse test, this scientist says, the Mickey Mouse test kits being sent out to hospitals at best tell analysts you have some viral DNA in your cells, which most of us do most of the time. It may tell you the viral sequence is related to a specific type of virus, say the huge family of coronavirus, but that's all. The idea these kits can isolate a specific virus like COVID-19 is nonsense. And that's not even getting into the other issue, viral load. If you remember, the PCR works by amplifying minute amounts of DNA. It therefore is useless at telling you how much virus you may have. And that's the only question that really matters when it comes to diagnosing illness. Everyone will have a few system at any time, and most will not cause illness because their quantities are too small. For a virus to sicken you, you need lots of it, a massive amount of it. But PCR does not test viral load, and therefore can't determine if an osteogenesis is present in sufficient quantities to sicken you. In other words, people are being diagnosed with coronavirus when the test does not allow that virus to be isolated to make that diagnosis, and not on a level that can determine if you have enough of the virus to have any effect on your health. So where are these figures coming from? I'll come to that as we go. If you feel sick and get a PCR test, any random virus DNA might be identified even if they aren't at all involved in your sickness, which leads to false diagnosis. And what they're doing all over the world is if you die of some kind of respiratory effect and you have all these other challenges to your immune system, what they call other health problems, then as long as you test for coronavirus in the ludicrous methodology that this scientist is describing, you go, the scientist goes on, are incredibly common. A large percentage of the world human population will have COVID DNA in them in small quantities, even if they are perfectly well or sick with some other pathogen. Do you see where this is going? The question is this. If you want to create a totally false panic about a totally false pandemic, pick a coronavirus, which is what the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the 1% Front, the World Economic Forum, and the Johns Hopkins University operation in America chose as the subject of their Event 201 6 weeks before this virus came to light, when they ran a simulation of what would happen and how the world would respond to a pandemic. And what did they choose? A coronavirus. Just a coincidence, nothing to worry about. He talks about these coronaviruses, or he or she. They are incredibly common, and there's tons of them. A very high percentage of people who have become sick by other means, flu, bacterial pneumonia, anything, will have a positive PCR test for COVID even if you're doing them properly and ruling out contamination, simply because COVIDs are so common. There are hundreds of thousands of flu and pneumonia victims in hospital throughout the world at any one time. All you need to do is select the sickest of these in a single location, say Wuhan, administer PCR tests to them, and claim anyone showing sequences similar to a coronavirus, which will inevitably be quite a few, is suffering from a new disease. Since you already selected the sickest flu cases, a fairly high proportion of your sample will go on to die. You can then say this new virus has a fatality rate higher than the flu and use this to infuse more concern and do more tests, which will of course produce more cases, and so on. Before long, you have your pandemic. And all you have done is use a small test kit trick to convert the worst flu and pneumonia cases into something new that doesn't actually exist. Now just run the same scam in other countries, making sure to keep the fear message running high so that people will feel panicky and less able to think critically. Your only problem is going to be that due to the fact that there is no actual new deadly pathogen, but just regular sick people, you are mislabeling your case numbers and especially your deaths. And they're going to be your deaths way too low for a real new deadly virus pandemic, which is what we're seeing. But you can stop people pointing this out in several ways. One, you can claim this is just the beginning and more deaths are imminent. Hello. Use this as an excuse to quarantine everyone, and then claim the quarantine prevented the expected millions of dead. Wait for that one, that's coming. You can tell people that minimizing the dangers is irresponsible and bully them into not talking about numbers. As you see, they've bullied us. You can talk crap about
So I'm in a sitting position. I've been sitting here for the last hour, more than an hour.
Senior advisors to governments around the world, not least in Britain and the United States. You can start testing well people who, of course, will also likely have shreds of coronavirus DNA in them, and thus inflate your case figures with no symptom carriers. You will, of course, have to spin that to sound deadly, even though any virologist knows the more symptomless cases you have, the less deadly is your pathogen. Come to that as we go along. Take these 4 simple steps and you can have your own entirely manufactured pandemic up and running in weeks. They cannot confirm something for which there is no accurate test. So that is a brilliant description of what has happened and how 3 billion currently, and that's not the end of it, are basically under house arrest on the basis of a total scam, which has terrified people into being acquiescent to this tyranny or cult, as I call it, the borderless cult that operates all around the world, pushing this agenda for total global Orwellian control, which of course this virus has given them the excuse to do, literally globally.
I think Julian's friend is just like you said, he's absolutely nailed it. And we've been speaking quite a bit over the last few days about the fear, how these things are just being fed out. And it's insane here. I'm in Derbyshire, and I've got friends in a village literally just over the hills, a lovely village, and he was saying that they're grassing up the neighbours because they've been out twice and a bit later on because you're just trying to kill time because you're so bored, and yeah, one of his neighbours grassed him up. Some people came around and were like, what do you think you're doing? It's like,
yeah.
What is happening?
See, the thing is that these laws that have been passed, that are suspended laws this week, are exactly the laws and impositions that I said was coming for so long that this government's introduced. Of course, it's done so as a result of this, and Parliament is pathetic. I mean, just pathetic.
So I just got a pulse on the foot,
So,
and there was a comment, put the kick in, we get out.
always have a situation where if you give authority power, it will just abuse it. So you have a situation where people are being tracked by drones.
The cops are coming,
They're out walking in the middle of nowhere.
This is a direct result, these readings. It's a direct result of my being pulsed with microwaves and RF. The actual readings on my body is quite higher. See how the EF there goes up? So the readings on my body is higher than these numbers because this detector is about 2.5 feet away from my body.
To do with protecting people from this virus, because someone walking in the countryside through that sequence I've described is not being a threat to anybody. It's not about health. It's about two things. It's about control, and it's about destroying the global economy and taking
so a lot higher than the numbers that are registered
so that they become
away from my body. So this is touching my body, and this is not touching my body. That's the EF reading. The RF readings seem to oh, there we go, 494.
Okay.
And that was accompanied by a knock from the loading dock. And my stomach is starting to cramp.
But we see Boris Johnson, for instance, who stands up at these daily news conferences and say we've decided. He hasn't decided to do anything. This is being driven.
The people in the loading dock are logged on.
Politicians, they're pawns in a game they don't understand. It's being driven by the dark suits and the experts, the technocrats, on the way to a technocratic society where there are no elected politicians anymore, only dark suit bureaucrats and medical experts,
just like China,
experts, and all this other stuff.
Exactly like China,
dictating everything via.
But we are living in a democracy, right?
Where, this is a key question, where are the lockdown policies coming from?
So that's a pulse in the car.
Freedom in Britain.
And that was a 19 there. That 19 was a pulse in the car muscle. So I'll take my blood pressure.
In any kind of time scale imaginable.
So I just got a pulse of pain on the foot.
They're coming.
It went back down though.
The advisors. And of course, as always, the mainstream media, medical advisor says this, advisor says that. There's no question. Well, hold on a minute. Who are these advisors? What is their agenda? Where are they getting their information from to lead to these lockdown policies? Because they're the ones driving them. Well, here's a story. I mean, it is pathetic, especially when you've heard what I just said. Coronavirus.
So
UK lockdown could be
it went from 132 over 82
until a vaccine is
to 115 over 83.
Everyone must be vaccinated, mandatory, save the world.
And you notice the increase and decrease in
UK lockdown
in the power.
Could be indefinite unless a vaccine is found, warned scientists advising the government. So, mainstream media, are you going to ask who these characters are and what their background is? Oh no. They come from an organisation called the Imperial College, which, by the way, has big connections to Freemasonry. The UK could face indefinite lockdown without a vaccine, scientists have warned. Their modelling of this is a point. Now we come to where these figures and projections are coming from. Remember what the scientists said about tell them when you haven't got the figures, tell them, or worse is to come. They're coming from computer models run by these characters at Imperial College. Just as the figures are being compiled in America by Johns Hopkins University Medical Operation, the very organization that took part in the
So 115 over 83 to 114 over 88.
Coronavirus pandemic 6 weeks before it became public. Who are these people? You're journalists, for goodness sake. You know, journalists, what do? They ask questions, they question everything. If these people in the mainstream media are putting journalists on their tax form, they ought to be prosecuted under the Trade Descriptions Act, because it's the last thing they are. They're modelling shit in the computer, processed, shit out. You want to get an outcome that suits your agenda, you just control the data that goes in. This is what's happened with so-called human-caused climate change. That's why the ice caps are still with us when they should have been long gone. It's why they're not swimming in New York from sea rising. Because the computer models that have driven that ludicrous policy of human-caused climate change were shit in, shit out. It's a doddle to do. So anyway, their modelling of how the disease could sweep through the country, kill more than 250,000 Britons, and overwhelm the National Health Service, forced Boris Johnson's change in tack this week. Hello, exactly what is going on. The scientists from Imperial College London's Centre for Global Infectious Disease said the world was now in uncharted territory. How do they know? Well, our computer models said. With the strict measures on limiting social contacts and quarantining households only able to buy time rather than stop the virus spreading. Their modelling for the government, which has been shared with France and the United States, shit in, shit out, and then spread the shit, was based on new information from Italy. We can get into that as we go along. The data showed around 30% of Britons could end up needing intensive care. I have a word for that, Imperial College. Well, I've got two. Utter bollocks. And meaning the National Health Service would be overwhelmed by the start of April. Ultimately, around 260,000 people could have died without the government's new measures today. So, you're Boris Johnson. You don't really want to do this, not at least because it's going to destroy your prime ministerial reign and destroy the economy. But you've got these characters saying to you, this is what's going to happen if you don't do what we say, and you're going to be blamed for all these deaths. So what does he do? Well, he goes with it. This is what's going on. And this is why, people, you're sitting in your freaking houses under house arrest. But despite the government steps, the scientists warned there would be no end in sight for the world without a vaccine. Oh, here we go. They said countries would have to go through repeated cycles of restrictions being lifted and reimposed. Well, that's what the cult wants to do. How can you know that? Imperial College. Our computer model system. I don't get information. But we did. Professor Neil Ferguson, by the way, this is a name I will be forgetting when this is over. Professor Neil Ferguson, Professor of Mathematical Biology, whatever the bloody hell that is, said the government had wrestled with the idea of adopting strict measures and then going back to normal. He said, we don't think that is now possible. Well, Mr. Ferguson, some of us think it is. And to put, Gaz, this whole thing into context, while this crap is coming out of computer models, I was sent a link this week, as you know, to a page on the government's official website, where all the government departments and all the government guidance and advice is there in its various departments. And a friend of mine was looking through, looking for coronavirus information, and she found this page. And this was on the page of this official government website relating to government guidance for, quote, high consequence infectious diseases, which are known as HCID. This is what this official government website page said about COVID-19. As of 19 March 2020, COVID-19 is, wait for it, no longer considered to be a high consequence infectious disease, HCID, in the UK. What happened days later after that pronouncement? Boris Johnson announced the deletion of freedom in Britain and the creation of a police, military, you'll see, state, based on the fact that this virus, which according to this government guidance no longer is considered to be a high consequence infectious disease, but the lockdowns happen because this is all so dangerous, you're all going to die. And it goes on. The Four Nations Public Health HCID group made an interim recommendation in January 2020 to classify COVID-19 as an HCID. This was based on consideration of the UK HCID criteria about the virus and the disease with information available during the early stages of the outbreak. Now that more is known about COVID-19, remember this is from March 19, the public health bodies in the UK have reviewed the most up-to-date information about COVID-19 against the UK HCID criteria. They have determined that several features have now changed. In particular, more information is available about mortality rates, brackets, low overall. And there is now greater clinical awareness and a specific and sensitive laboratory test, the availability of which continues to increase. The Advisory Committee on Dangerous Pathogens is also of the opinion that COVID-19 should no longer be classified as a high consequence infectious disease. Days later, Britain was locked down because the virus is so dangerous. So this is what we are looking at. You are being scammed on a monumental scale. And please don't fall for the fact or the belief that they would do that. What did Hitler and the Nazis say? The bigger the lie, the more will believe it.
There's so many things out there. A few things I've seen in the last couple of days actually, where there's obviously a concerted effort to ramp up the fear, because that's basically what's allowing this to happen. One of them, I don't know if you saw it, Dad, but on social media there were lots of photos of Italian nurses and doctors, and they'd obviously had the masks on all day, so they were bruised, badly from having these masks all day, and they shared their photos. And then all the media outlets then took the photos and put them out there, look how horrific it is, blah, blah, blah. And then I saw a few people had gone back and taken the original photos that these people had put on social media, and they've been photoshopped by the media outlets to make it look even more horrific, and they have more cuts and bruises and things like that. And you just think, why are you lying? Why are you lying? Do you know what I mean?
Well, the journalist, Gaz, I was in the mainstream media journalist arena for a long time, way back. And they're overwhelmingly, there are some very mature and very good journalists, but they're very rare. Most of them are little boys and girls in short trousers. And the editorial control, etc., and above him, owners, executives, will decide on the angle, the line. And the journalists then leave or sit at their computers, and they angle the stories according to the line they've been given. And if they don't, well, they don't stay there very long. And I've seen, even in the old days, where an editor would tell a journalist what the angle of the story was before the journalist even left the frickin' building to investigate the story. This is what goes on. And of course, you have backbone deleted, jellyfish people in journalism who just think about the check at the end of the month and not about actually being a proper journalist. And fear is the currency of control, and therefore you want people in fear, because then they will give their freedom away to anyone they think, and to any draconian level of imposition they think will protect them from what they've been manipulated to fear. And there's another angle to this, which kind of goes into what that scientist in America said, as they described the scam. And that's numbers. There was a study published this week by Oxford University, which was looking at the coronavirus numbers and concluded that this coronavirus that is claimed was circulating in Britain in early January, quote, at the latest. Now you go back 2 weeks or 3 weeks from early January, and what do you hit? The very period that you and me had went down with an illness that had every single symptom of this virus. Now, because the symptoms are so similar across these coronavirus strains, it could have been this one or it could have been another one. But the fact is that people were getting ill in exactly this way. And of course, as we made this public, other people have come forward and said, yeah, I it was the same for me just before Christmas. Now, this is very, very significant, and it's beginning to become clear for other reasons which I'll come to. The World Health Organization and this man you wouldn't trust to sell you a new car, let alone a used one, Tedros, who's the head of official figurehead of the World Health Organization. He came out and started using, I think it was 3.4% of people who got this virus died. That figure was insane, pulled out of the air to terrify people. And, you know, very simply, when people die, and for other reasons, it's not necessarily of the coronavirus, but that goes on the That goes on the death certificate. But when people die, you have a specific number because they are no longer alive. But the ratio percentage rate of infections to death require another figure, which is how many have had the virus. And the bigger that figure is, the smaller the percentage of death rate to cases squeezes and squeezes and squeezes. And it's now being realized that a far greater number of people have this COVID-19, absolutely not in levels that are going to cause them any harm. But like the scientist said, we've got loads of these coronaviruses. Yes. And therefore, we have tremendous discrepancy in the death rates, because the death rate percentage depends on how many you have assessed to have actually had the virus or are carrying the virus, and it's not caused them anything more than no symptoms or mild symptoms, which is the vast majority. We shut down the world economy and put people under a house arrest for this. So, this explains something that is bewildering the modelers, and so many of them, people who claim to be health experts, relating to Germany, and why Germany's death rate to cases is so low and much lower anywhere else. Why is that? How can that be? This is a story from the last couple of days. Coronavirus. Why is Germany's death toll so low? Germany is the 5th most affected country in the world in terms of confirmed cases of coronavirus, i.e. people carrying the coronavirus, which almost everyone does. As of Thursday, 26th of March, the number of confirmed coronavirus cases in Europe's largest economy stood at 39,502. Yet, despite tens of thousands of cases, Germany so far has reported 222 deaths from the virus, dramatically lower than the more than 7,500 in Italy and around 4,000 in Spain. This low fatality rate of 0.56%, less than regular flu, has attracted global attention and debate. Ooh, what could be going on? Well, it's bloody obvious, actually. Christian Drosten, Institute of Virology Director at a Berlin hospital, said that the low death toll from coronavirus in Germany is mainly down to extensive testing. The more widely you test, the more people carrying the coronavirus, not in any levels that's going to cause them a problem, you get. So your case numbers expand. Death numbers get smaller and smaller as a ratio of the cases. He said the reason why we have so few deaths compared by the number of infected people is because we do a lot of laboratory diagnostics. Over 500,000 coronavirus tests are currently being carried out every week. And the article says making direct comparisons between national mortality rates can be misleading, not just because of recording lags and different methodologies on reporting cases of deaths, but because of the extent of testing. The more aggressively a country tests for coronavirus, the more cases of mild infections will be found and recorded in the statistics, which pushes the fatality percentage down. Hello? I never had that in my computer model.
But that's just obvious, isn't it?
Obvious. But here's a quote, Gaz, from Italy's civil protection chief, Angelo Borelli, who said about Italy, it is credible to estimate that there are 10 positive cases for every one officially reported. And as this article says, if this is true, and it almost certainly is, because the coronavirus that almost everyone's carrying, if this were true, and as many as 640,000 people are infected in Italy, and their actual mortality rate would, in a stroke, become 1% instead of the currently alleged 10%. You cannot give out a death rate percentage if you do not know how many people have actually got it.
Exactly. In the
and
UK,
so it's the vast overwhelming majority. Getting faster, the more people who are identified of people have no effects or mild effects from this virus, and we're shutting down the world economy and putting people under house arrest as a result.
Exactly. Most people don't even know they've got it. And the thing in the UK, unless you're a celebrity, is you're only tested if you're hospitalised. Well, and then obviously then the percentage of deaths is taken from the percentage of people that are hospitalised. But if you're hospitalised, what the better phrase, you're already buggered anyway. That's why you're at the hospital.
Yeah.
It's madness.
And the other point is, as other evidence shows, is that when someone dies, if they test positive for coronavirus, then they go on the statistics of having died of coronavirus. Well, as the scientist said, that test is meaningless because it cannot establish how much of the virus you have and therefore whether it is involved in your fatality or not. So in Italy, according to their National Health Service, as we would call it, 99% of people who died in Italy have had 1, 2, 3 or more other health problems which have put tremendous stress on their immune system, which cannot cope when something else comes along. Although we don't know, if the truth be told, whether those people actually died from coronavirus or whether it was from something else, but they just tested positive for coronavirus and therefore that goes on the death certificate. So these figures are being used and are being manipulated to terrify the global population in league with the ludicrous, pathetic, spineless, childish kindergarten media to create a situation in which the most basic freedoms have been deleted. That's what's going on. And of course, on our website was by John Rappaport, who I mentioned earlier, as an American journalist who looks into this, does a lot of great stuff. And he goes to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC. They're just the American agency of the World Health Organization. They're all connected. And the CDC establishes the guidelines for how this PCR test, or whether you got it, how it should be done and what the results mean. And this is a paragraph from the CDC. Positive test results are indicative of active infection with 2019 N1, but do not rule out bacterial infection or co-infection with other viruses. The agent detected may not be the definite cause of the disease, but it's going on the death certificate every time. Laboratories within the United States and its territories are required to report all positive results to the appropriate public health authorities. Repeat, the agent detected, the coronavirus in this case, may not be the definite cause of the disease that people have and kills some. Everywhere you look, Gaz, the scam by manipulating figures.
Now look at the heart rate
You know, they say
variations in a sitting position.
you can't argue with.
It's in a sitting position, no activity.
Statistics speak for themselves. That's what they'll say about this coronavirus. The statistics speak for themselves. Well, I got news for you. Statistics don't speak for themselves. They speak for those that compiled the statistics. And that is how the scam is being played. Wake up, people, while you still can.
Are you born between 1966 and 2002? Being broken? There's a brilliant new way to earn on the side. Get some extra income by filling out surveys. Wouldn't it be nice?
Backbone deleted, jellyfish people in journalism who just think about the check at the end of the month and not about actually being a proper journalist. And fear is the currency of control, and therefore you want people in fear, because then they will give their freedom away to anyone they think, and to any draconian level of imposition they think will protect them from what they've been manipulated to fear. And there's another angle to this, which kind of goes into what that scientist in America said, as they described as scam. And that's numbers. There was a study published this week by Oxford University, which was looking at the coronavirus numbers and concluded that this coronavirus that is claimed was circulating in Britain in early January, quote, at the latest. Now you go back 2 weeks or 3 weeks from early January, and what do you hit? The very period that you and me had went down with an illness that had every single symptom of this virus. Now, because the symptoms are so similar across these coronavirus strains, it could have been this one or it could have been another one. But the the fact is that people were getting ill in exactly this way. And of course, as we made this public, other people have come forward and said, yeah, it was the same for me just before Christmas. Now, this is very, very significant, and it's beginning to become clear for other reasons which I'll come to. The World Health Organization and this man you wouldn't trust to sell you a new car, let alone a used one, Tedros.
So the signals went up to 500 plus just now, the RF reading. And I suddenly started getting heart palpitations, like a fluttering in my stomach. And I don't have any magnets on my chest. See that? 690, 670 there, 540. So there should be an arrhythmia detection soon, if not this one. There you go. I actually predicted it. There is a direct correlation between the high RF reading and irregular heartbeat and arrhythmia. I started getting this fluttering butterfly feeling in my stomach. And you saw yourself live. And I'm sitting here listening to the computer, working on the computer. You saw live that happen. See that irregular heartbeat? Now, from now on, I'm going to get a lot of fluctuations until the heart gets back to normal. So I'm going to give it a few minutes, and then I'll take the other reading. Because I'll tell you right now, let me just show you. Oh, there we go. We have another set of, so let me tweet that. I'll tweet that for you so you can see yourself. Red alert. Here is what red alert looks like. Check out the red alerts. At 25 Bamberg Circle. With arrhythmia causing irregular heartbeat. There you go, 119/86. So my chest is starting to hurt. I wonder if masturbation is high up on your list of concerns right now. Is the Muslim steward's concern about masturbation high up on his list? Is it right up there for prioritization purposes? Very concerned. We're very, very concerned. Yeah, 126 over 84. So we had
Enough is enough. Go home and stay home.
we had 108 over 86, and that's irregular heart rate detection right there. Then it went to 119, then it went to 126.
It will
So the heart, the pressure is going up and down, 69, 64, 68.
We're not going to let the cure be worse than the problem. Let's go to work. Our country wasn't built to be shut down.
The U.S. Federal Reserve single-handedly turning around market sentiment this morning with what you might describe as a monetary bazooka. Look at the Dow. This is the strongest one-day performance since 1933.
It's a relief rally and not really pricing in the fact that we're going to have to face one of the deepest global recessions ever.
We should not underestimate the necessity to avoid a Great Depression.
If you're running a business now, your big preoccupation is cash. We had 500,000 Canadians filing for unemployment insurance last week. I think the figure will be higher even this week. Half of employers have laid off. A quarter of
You got prepared when you acted on Omar Rampersad. They prepared you for what was coming down the line. Step by step, you were prepared. And the entire country, quote unquote, of course, not the entire country actually voted, but a lot of people voted and took part in the illegal activity. So are you going to speak up? How many people are going to speak up? Now, keep in mind that the red alerts are on your cell phone, especially the ones in the loading dock. Keep in mind that the red alerts are on your cell phones. That could be dug up in an investigation for conspiracy to impoverish, to experiment on, impoverish, falsely imprison, because we are being falsely imprisoned, in my opinion, right now, and traffic. So I'm getting a huge headache. So it's more than an hour. And I'm going to download the data from my app for the heart rate. And I'm going to download the data from the spectrum analyzer. And I'm going to match it up time-wise. So I'm going to end the stream here. So it's Omar Rampersad, 12:59 p.m., March 27, 2020.